Hi everyone, I'm Wendy and I'm here with Marilene.
Hi Wendy.
Hi. We are here to chat about family constellations. So Marilene, it's really nice to sit down with you today. This is our first time together. I have been lucky enough to know you for quite a long time and to experience and feel the benefit of your work over the years. That's really helped me. And I was also one of your first students.
You were.
I have found that when explaining this work to friends and colleagues, etc., I get asked a lot of questions. So I thought that we could chat about some of those. I know this work is so much easier when you experience it, firsthand in the physical sense. However, your understanding of the subject and your ability to communicate, I think, would really help people to gain an insight into what this work is about and how it may apply to their own situations. Okay, so are you ready to dive into the questions?
Absolutely. I would love to hear the questions you've got for me today.
Perfect. Well, I've got a few of them here, so I'm going to dive into them and get started. So first one is, how can we be affected by our ancestors? To put it quite bluntly, they are dead and they are gone. So how would you kind of explain how we get affected?
Hi Wendy. Thank you. That's a very deep question to start off with. And I suppose the exact how, I really don't know. I'll leave that to the scientists to really answer this. But I can tell you what we've observed in this work and what we see happening in this work. And it is absolutely right that we could think that once our ancestors are dead, that everything they did on this earth dies with them. But something that we experience is that not everything dies with them. And that in a way they leave a legacy, an energetic legacy in this world. And so anything that they haven't fully resolved, anything that hasn't fully been seen by what happened to them, seems to remain energetically in what we call the family field. And the family field it's like an informational field that is around us and that we communicate with. And whether family members know each other or not, whether they even know that they belong to a certain family or not, and whether they know that they have an extra brother or an extra sister somewhere or not, doesn't seem to make a difference. It seems that we have a way of communicating with one another through what we call in this work the knowing field. And so we're updating one another constantly with information about our lives, and somehow we can feel this, we can feel into what has gone before. And so we can inherit gifts, we can inherit really beautiful things that serve our lives, but we can also inherit unresolved trauma that is waiting for somebody to one day to look at it and finish it and resolve it, so that people later in the generations don't have to hold on and still feel that reverberation in the field, so they can learn about how to resolve it and therefore create it into a gift.
Thank you. I have to agree. I have often felt myself quite influenced by my ancestors, past generations, which has been seen when I've done constellations to try and remedy things that I'm finding are difficult for myself. So yeah, thank you for that. That's perfect. Okay, so we have another question, which is what are the different behaviours we can exhibit by these connections that you've just spoken about, sort of entanglements?
I mean, most feelings that we have that don't make sense from our own personal history. Could be what we call a systemic feeling, something that started not with us, but actually with one of our ancestors. And so it could be that we've experienced ourselves all our lives as not mattering, or as being anxious, or as being depressed, or as not being able to get the energy to really make something happen. We only get so far and then it fails. But actually, when we look at our personal history, it doesn't really make sense. There was nothing that really happened that stopped these feelings, from going well. And so when we then look and inquire into the family history, we see that there were people who had very good reasons to be anxious. There were people who lost all of what they owned in one swoop of fate and were impoverished ever after. It is possible that we had ancestors who had very, very good reasons to be depressed because they were in the middle of the war and they saw, many members of the family or colleagues in the war die, and so on. And so we realize that we are carrying these feelings on behalf of the people who came before us. Out of love for them, we hold these feelings until they're fully seen and, in a way, return to the person they belong, and so that the person can carry them and energetically resolve them in the field.
That's great. That's a really good explanation. Sometimes I can find myself feeling or acting in a way that doesn't necessarily feel sort of true to my own personal situation. And I know with the constellations that I've done with you over quite a few years, that can really help me to see that true sort of primary information of where these feelings or actions have originated. In my parents, my grandparents, and I've seen it go even further back than those. So, yeah, that's great. Thank you for that.
It seems that in this work, the child is committed to belong to their family beyond their need to survive. They would give up, we all would give up our happiness, our safety, our sense of truly belonging in order to, at a very, very deep level, matter in the family.
And we do all feel that, don't we? We all feel that need to fit in, to feel that we have a place in our family, in our friends, our social circles, and also in our work.
That's right.
There's always that need to kind of have a place and to fit in. No, thank you for that. That's brilliant. Okay, this one is something that sometimes I sort of see, which is, this question is along the fact or the fiction, really. When somebody attends a workshop to set something up, they would like to look at, often they're quite biased in as such that they can often only see the issue from their point of view, and they would like it fixed for them from that perspective that they came in with. Can you help us to understand how this work opens up to show more than one-sided point of view?
Beautiful. I mean, we are all caught up in our side of the story. We're all caught up in seeing things from our point of view, and particularly whether it served us or didn't serve us. And when we speak to our friends, we often try to bring them into our side of hearing things and believing things. And so, we become stronger and the other side becomes even weaker. And of course, as a facilitator, if I get caught up in that in any way, then I can't help my clients. I've already lost the opportunity to help them see something from the other point of view. And instead of just seeing it from the other point of view, we actually zoom out even more, I would say. We zoom out and go, we're going to see it within a bigger context. We're going to map the context within which this conversation was had or within which this action happened. And for that, we use representative for all the different aspects that also played a part. So that the client can then see, it wasn't just me who needed something in this situation. There were all these other demands on the parent or the uncle or the grandparent in that moment when they did whatever they did. And the more the client can open themselves in their heart to incorporating everything else, the more they tend to find peace, because they realize it's not just because they were a bad child, it's not just because mummy didn't love them, it's not just because something went wrong, it's just that is the best that was possible with all these other components at play in that moment.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, it's so easy to stay in the story that you've created, or we've create for ourselves, or I've found that it's inherited. You speak to your mum, and your mum has spoken to her mum, and she's spoken to her mum, and it's like family, familial Chinese whispers. And I know when I've done a constellation, to see the full factual picture without any of the stories that are created, it's very settling, it's very, very healing. That's really, really, really good.